That's live, I think. Okay. Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is going to cover everything. The reason for this is because there's so much illusions still being portrayed, and I find it extremely frustrating. And I wasn't even going to do any more lives. I was like, no, it's done, everybody knows now, but apparently not. So, we're going to start at the beginning, right from creation, and go forward. Hopefully, I'll recall everything that's needed. I don't think I'll be using too much as images. There's only a couple I need. Yeah, the creation. I've just been having a debate with somebody on my Facebook page as well, who's obviously religious, talking about God. God's this and God's that. And you try to explain them that it's the mind, and they're like, no. And you're like, oh, okay. So, to alleviate all of this, we're going to start at the beginning and then just go through the pattern, because it's extremely simple. And basically, it's your life. Now, in scripture, everything in the Bible is talking about you. It's not talking about anything else. It's specifically talking about you. When I say you, I'm on about anyone, because everybody's the same thing. So, in the beginning, God said, right? So we're going to get away from the word God, right? Now, okay, I'll explain the word God first, or what we perceive as the word God now. Now, if you know about the Bible, you know about Francis Bacon, and that's an interesting word as well, because I was looking at that yesterday. Francis is just French, and then you look at Bacon, eventually you'll get down to, it means peasants. So French peasants is actually what Francis Bacon actually means, and Shakespeare's shaking the spear, which is masturbation. So once you understand all of this, you'll understand why the words were created the way they were. And I'm also going to read something else that I think explains a lot about the script and who wrote the script, or how the script was wrote. There is something else I need to touch on later about the creation of man itself. It's an interesting thought, because you've got to question it and go, well, if man is, okay, start at the beginning. So in the beginning, okay, so before creation, we'll have to start there. So what happened before creation? I wrote about this years ago, and again, you've got to understand, when I write things, I'm writing it from the perspective at that time. So if you go through any old posts, you might see some differences, but it's only evolved. It's not like I've deleted something or it's wrong. It was misinterpreted and I had to correct it. So there's lots of things like that in the old posts, because eventually you're weeding everything out and get it so it's correct. So what was before the beginning? Well, you have to understand what melanin is. People keep, to this day, I mean, I had a debate with somebody the other day. Well, it wasn't a debate. They were saying that melanin was just skin pigment. I'm like, no, it's not. It's everything in a cell. So everything in a cell is melanin. Everything. And obviously, Western science does not tell you this. Hence why this lad was saying, no, it's not. I've had lots of black friends saying, look into melanin. But I'm like, what's it got to do with black people? What are you talking about? Everybody's black. So you need to understand that there is no black and white. There's not different hues of man. The hues are for consciousness itself. Yeah, that's where the hues come from. So don't think of man like with different races. There is only man. Everything, even a cat or a dog, sees itself as man from its perspective. I mean, a dog doesn't look at you and think you're a human. Doesn't even think it's a dog. Do you know what I mean? From its point of view, it thinks it's it. Right? And that is man. Yeah, that concept of feeling like you're yourself. Now, science will say that animals and everything else don't recognize themselves in mirrors, therefore they have no consciousness. That's just horseshit. That's just so ridiculous. You look at any animal, you even look at insects that take care of their young. Not all of them, but some do. Why would they do that? Do you know what I mean? And you can also look at man, and not all man looks after the young. So man's exactly the same as all other life. So once you understand this and accept it, you can understand what the mind is and what man is. So man is basically the mind being projected as a sense of self from its perspective. So everything's man. So melanin, that's the source. Yeah. So all that exists is melanin. You can call it the source. Call it what you want. It matters not the name of it. Remember, all words are created simply so other people can understand what you're saying. That's the whole reason for language. So communication, basically. So in the beginning, there was melanin. So what was melanin doing? Well, melanin is everything. So don't think of separation. So melanin gas and melanin fluid are one and the same. So before everything was created, before anything was created, the void, the darkness and all of that was melanin. So you got the melanin fluid and then thinner melanin fluid above it. And we're going to call that melanin gas. The melanin gas is the masculine part of melanin and the melanin fluid is the feminine part of melanin. That's a separation of it. But that separation still has to exist before creation. Because the mind has, so you haven't got a torus, there is no torus, there is no cell being created at this point. So before all of that, you also know that melanin has to exist, and then melanin fluid and melanin gas, or the same thing, but the separation still has to be there in density. And the reason I say this is because the mind has to create, and the mind is the gas. It's not... See, what's hard about it is because the mind isn't a thing. It isn't a thing. It doesn't do anything, the mind. The mind is like the center of the torus. So the mind isn't anything. Oh, this is... It gets so hard to explain nothingness whilst being something. So the gas has to create the waves on the water for the torus to form. That has to happen. So it's focused thought. So whatever the mind is, it isn't a thing. It's the absence of things. But it decides that it wants to know what it's like to know everything. Because the one thing that the mind can't know at that point, because nothing exists, is what it's like to know everything. Because it knows everything, but because there's nothing there, it doesn't know what it's like to not know. So the only way the mind can not know something is to create something. And then within that creation, the creation does not know. And as soon as the creation doesn't know, the mind knows what it's like to feel everything, what it's like to know and what it's like to not know. And that's why the mind created the illusion of the other, the sense of self, the ego. So once the torus forms, it's just a fluid sitting on the waters. So the waters we're going to call melanin. So melanin, the torus, cytoplasm. Once it's a cell, we'll call it cytoplasm. But again, it's just melanin. So the melanin rises off the waters, or the fluid, or the melanin, and creates a torus. Now, the gas, or the melanin, thinner melanin, the melanin gas, is above the torus. It surrounds the torus, because the torus sits on top of the fluid. So it's sitting there, it's vibrating, it's resonating. Then the gases have to mix. So as it's rotating on itself, it goes down to the singularity point, and the whole fluid will be clear at this point. There'll be nothing in it, just clear melanin fluid. That's the first stage of the cell. What the torus will then do as it starts to rotate, it mixes the gas with the fluid. And inside that torus, you get lots and lots and lots of bubbles. All those bubbles become sonoluminescence. Because the torus itself is vibrating, the bubbles within the torus become sonoluminescence. They become a vibrating bubble of light. They become consciousness. Light equals consciousness. So before all of that, there's a bubble starts in the very center, the nucleus of the cell. So you need to understand how this forms, because it's not... I've got another friend who keeps saying, Rob, will you stop using the fake images of a cell? Because that's not what a cell looks like. And she insists that the only time you can look at a cell like that is when it's dead, because you've took it out from where it was. And I agree to a point. But what you've got to use, or you've got to understand, is how that cell is on Earth. Now, again, it's always perception and it's always perspective. If you look at it from the man's perspective, land's just land, and we are the life, and that's it. That's all rock and it's dead. But if you look above that, you'll see that land is actually made of cells. It's all cellular. Yes, you can have an animal that was alive and now it's dead. But that's looking at it again from man's point of view and looking at something that was living that's now dead. But if you look at it from the mind's point of view, we're in a cell and there's nothing dead in the cell. So therefore, everything on the plane of inertia isn't dead. Your cells that make up the brain of the cell. So again, it's based on perspective and perception. It's how you're perceiving your reality outside. So once the mind is created, the torus, and the bubbles of light exist. The first stage, so when I go to the main 9-step pyramid, I'll do that in a bit. I'm just doing creation at the minute. So the main 9-step pyramid explains how it progresses. So we're going in the first stage. In the first stage, now you can go to the Gnostics, go to script, go to anywhere you want, and it's going to say this basic story. So there is the one God, whatever you want to call it, created a reflection of itself. In the Gnostics, it's Sophia, that represents the moon. So we'll start off with, well, I'll just give you the basics. The black sun, the melanin crystal. So when you're created in the womb, there's a melanin crystal. That crystal is what the fetus forms around. So in our reality, that crystal is the black sun below the plane of inertia. Black sun projects out and gives you the sun and the moon. That's the division. That's consciousness being divided at that point. So the black sun is one, the all, the mind, right? It represents the mind, but it isn't. Because remember, once the cell's been created, then you've got the creator within that cell, but again, it's not the overall creator, if you like. So the black sun represents the one mind, but again, it's a physical thing now, so it's not that. And the black sun then projects its light out, which divides into the sun and the moon. The sun represents the bottom in the waters. The sun represents consciousness above the waters. So it's just consciousness, the lights. So the moon, being the consciousness of the waters, is the feminine energy. So everything feminine is because of that consciousness. Everything masculine is because of the sun consciousness. Your ego is the sun consciousness. Your subconscious, your inner world, is the moon consciousness, the light from the moon. Now, your subconscious projects all your conscious thoughts to you. So the moon projects all your thoughts to the sun. The moon first, feminine first, then masculine. Now, the problem that people have with this is because the masculine, the sun, you'd think it's above the plane, but it represents, because the sun radiates out, and that's blue shift. The moon draws energy in. That's blue shift. So the sun's actually red shift. Well, the way it is, it projects out from red shift, and the moon is blue shift. Yeah, but they are the opposite way around. So the sun's actually at the top, which is blue shift, and the moon's at the bottom, which is red shift. Yeah. But the way we see it, it's the opposite way around. So when you get the yin and yang sign, the yin yang, right now it represents the sun and the moon, and it represents white light and black light. So if you turn it, so black light, the black part of it at the bottom, that represents the waters, black light, melanin fluid. Above that, the wet white represents the gas, the masculine, the white light. So the moon, or the black sun, creates the moon, which represents black light. Black light creates white light. Remember, this is all consciousness. So black light creates white light. Yeah? Then the white light is separated into its colours, into your chakras. So it's all consciousness. So by the time you're birthed, your consciousness, when you open your eyes, has been separated. And your consciousness is the lowest one, the lowest chakra. And that's why you start off at red light. And you don't know who you are, and you've got to ask all those questions and work out who you are. So, during the creation, you're within the waters, the inner world. The waters represent the inner world, they represent the feminine, they represent everything about the feminine energy. So, when you're in the womb, it's the equivalent to a seed. yeah? The seed's the sperm, right? The sperm's not the egg. So the seed's the sperm, the egg or the ovum represents the waters or the world, yeah? The universe, the cytoplasm, the ether, right? That's the melanin fluid that's in the egg. The electricity, the memories, the consciousness is the sperm. We represent the sperm cells in this reality. And the sperm cell has to enter the egg. Once the sperm cell consciousness goes into the egg, then you've got the world that the consciousness can be in. That's your vessel. You are a universal cell. So your consciousness starts as soon as that sperm goes in. Don't listen to science saying 3 months and all that bullshit. It's not. Straight away, instantly, as soon as there's the flash of light, when the egg's fertilized, consciousness has entered the egg. Ovum, world, what do you want to call it? Now, once it's in there, the cells start to form. Those first cells are called blastocytes. Now, they are the creator cells. At this point, it's still the moon. So when they talk about Sophia and the Gnostics, just think consciousness and in this reality, like in the womb. That's what it's talking about. And within that reality, Sophia creates the demiurge, this worm thing. Well, the demiurge is the ego. Yeah? Now, when you're created with a life script. Your life script is everything that's you're going to do throughout your life, and that's created within the womb. But while you're in the womb, you're still going to pay back karmic debt and pay all these things back. But you're going to do it from the perspective of all the cells that create a body. Now, this is important. I'm going to go back to what a cell is. Now, because you're a universal cell, what actually happens, you can't take a bit of your heart and then look at that and then see an individual cell. That won't happen. I've never tried it, but I'm assuming it won't happen because it doesn't make no sense. What does make sense is that you start off really small, and the organelles within the cell, they're called organelles. Organelles simply means little organs. But that's you in the cell when it first starts to form, right? You've got these organelles. So an organelles or organ simply means organized. So the cells are organized in an order. But those cells don't, the doubling and all that, but what's actually happening is your heart cell simply grows to a bigger heart. Your lungs were still the same size when they were tiny, but they've grown, so they're just bigger. Yeah, you haven't got, per se, you haven't got individual cells, trillions of them. You are the universal cell, and within you, you've got parts of that cell. So all those parts make up your vessel. So individually, all the brain, everything in the cell is the mind and is the brain. Like I say, in all the animals that make up your vessel, these individual cells or body parts become other life forms because they've got a consciousness on their own. So the zodiac, the reason it's called a zodiac is because it's a zodiac or zodial. And the reason I always use animals and why animals are created before man is because the cells of the body are represented consciously by animals. So all the animals in the world represent the cells that make up a human vessel. Everything. From a single cell, which is where you start, to the bigger lives that we've got running around. They all represent part of the human vessel. At a stage when the human is being formed in the womb. That consciousness is then projected out, when you're growing, into an animal that's on Earth. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. It makes sense. It makes so much sense in my head. So yeah, don't think of individual cells in your body. Just think of your cells are growing bigger. So your heart was a small heart, then it grew bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's just bubbles sticking together. So, we'll go back to creation. What's actually happening, if you don't look at it physically, what's actually happening? Okay, the flower of life. That Terence McKenna, whatever he's called, is coming up with those half-truths. I don't trust him at all. The reason I don't trust him is because he's telling half-truths. You can go around the universe, you can do this, it's all this. It's like, you're talking nonsense. So, the seed of life, what is it? Well, if you look at the image of the seed of life, you'll see it's circles, lots of circles. That's a 2D image of a 3D effect. Like all cymatic patterns, that's what they look like. So you'll draw it as a flat image, but it's actually a 3D effect. Now, what those spheres are bubbles. So within the cell, when it first starts, there's nothing there. Then it creates bubbles, it mixes. And those bubbles start to stick together. Yeah? And when you get so many bubbles around the outside, the bubble in the centre then creates the platonic shapes. So all platonic shapes are created from the bubbles that surround a centre bubble. And they'll become an organ. Yeah? So the platonic shape become all the organs and all the rest of it. But it also depends on how many bubbles are sticking to it. The more bubbles, the more dense it gets. Yeah, so all you are bubbles keep sticking together, getting smaller and smaller and smaller, sticking together, sticking together, sticking together until they become forms and make bigger forms. Now you continuously to grow like this from the seed up until you're birthed. So the flower of life represents bubbles sticking together. Each bubble then becomes sololuminescent because it's in the torus, so it's vibrating and it creates light. That becomes conscious. So all your body parts are all conscious individually by themselves, but you are the whole, or the mind of them all, or the God of them all. It depends on what word you want to use, but you are the one that speaks for all your cells. For instance, when you stub your toe on a table or something, you stub your toe and you go, ow! Who are you speaking for? You just said, ow. Are you speaking for you? Because you, the mind, doesn't feel a pain. But what did feel a pain, just like if I banged you on the head, you would actually feel it. Your toes are feeling the pain. And the toes are saying, ow. And they go up your body and they express themselves through your mouth. So you're speaking on behalf of the cells of your toes. Or behalf of the toe. Yeah? Or whatever it is that was hurt. So then you realise that it's not actually you that's being hurt. It's the vessel. And you are the voice, the mind, giving the cells of the body a voice. So you're speaking on behalf of them. Yeah? You are not them. People need to get this in their head. You're not the vessel. This is not you. You are the black dot, the singularity point of the torus in the head. Now the singularity point is a dot within your head, but it's a tube going down. It's a double helix. So think of it, a tube of energy. Now, at the top of it is the one mind, the middle part is the heart, and the lower half of it are the reproductive organs, we'll call it that. Yeah, but you're all the same consciousness that's been separated. Yeah, so the mind is still the heart, and then the mind is still the lower half of the torus. Hence, the cerebral spinal fluid flows down and back up. Yeah. So the flower of life, the seed of life, and the seed of life, as you know, grows into the tree of life, that grows into the flower of life, that grows into the fruit of life. And the only difference between all of them is there's more circles on it. So the seed of life starts off small, and then you get more bubbles, you get the tree, more bubbles, you get the flower, more bubbles, you get the fruit. Yeah, they're just bubbles sticking together, becoming more dense, becoming more physical, shall we say. Right, so that's the creation. When you say it was the word of God, well, think, because that's what a lad was saying before, it's the word of God. It's like, well, the word is created by what? What is the word? Sound, tones. Yeah, 13 universal tones, it's a 7-day a week. But that's again the main calendar. So the 13 universal tones, so that's where you get the word of God. It's not the word, it's the sound. So the sound and resonance is what creates the torus in the first place. It's not the word of God. There's no words. Remember, words are created later on. There's no need for words at the beginning. God said, let there be light, but that's basically saying the first thing that created was sound. That's what it's saying. You don't think of it like it's actual, what it's saying. It's not. So what else have we got? Turn some heat on. It's a bit cold. It's raining today. It's supposed to be coming up to summer and it's absolutely freezing. So we've got the flower of life, seed of life, the torus. Okay, now in the womb, the demiurge is created. So what is the demiurge? Well, Sophia, the moon, reality, creates a demiurge, which is the ego, the sun. So at birth, your eyes open for the first time. You can go through the whole story of the Bible and the scripture if you want. The Garden of Eden's the womb. You realise that's all it's talking about. So we'll just leave scripture out of this. So once you're birthed into this reality, you open your eyes for the first time. Yeah, I think that's when your pineal gland's enlightened and you see for the first time. That's the ego. Now, the sun, yes, it's the Father because it's in the sky and you've got to go through the sun to know the Father. Now, remember, the Father is the gas or masculine energy. That's why they say the Father. what was I saying? Masculine energy, father. Yeah, but the son's also the ego, the sense of self. So Jesus, being the son, being the ego, had to be sacrificed. So why do you sacrifice the son? Well, the son is all your beliefs. So the ego is the son, and all your beliefs that you've been told, your whole life script, is the son, your pineal gland. When you're awake, that's what you believe. So you've got to rise above those beliefs, the illusions, and you rise above those by going through the chakras, which are the blocked energies, and that tells you what your sense of self needs to get rid of. That being at the very lower chakra, fear, then guilt, then shame, then grief, then lies, illusion, and attachments. Unless you can get rid of all those thoughts and feelings, you'll remain the ego, and you'll think I'm talking shit. So, let's see if we've got any images. I do want to talk about the 9-step pyramid again and explain consciousness, exactly how it works, because so many people think they know, but don't actually follow it and see how deep that image actually goes. And it goes really deep. So I'm going to find the... Okay, we'll use this one first. I have to use Facebook on my friend's pad to show this. Get rid of these comments so I can see. Right. So, can you see? Can we see? Right, there's the biblical image of the universe. This is the nucleus of the cell. Yeah? The nucleolus. The nucleus surrounds the nucleolus. The waters above the firmament, or the waters between the nucleolus and the nucleus. Yeah? I've done a post on all of this. So all the parts of the cell, you can see these are the ribosomes, I think they're called, something like that. So ribosomes, or ribosomes. So right in the very centre, that little ball, you can see the little ball in the centre, that's where we are. The earth-brain plane is in the centre of that. The waters above that are between the nucleolus, which is the centre, and the nucleus, which is the outside of it. These are the mountains that are supposed to be keeping up the earth and all of that. It's all talking about the cell. Yeah? And that is within the torus. So the centre is the earth-brain plane, or the nucleolus. This part of it, the spheres, remember, these are spheres. So the first one's the bubble. This is the nucleolus. And outside of that is the rest of the cell. So the earth-brain plane, the nucleolus, and the rest of the cell, or cytoplasm, or the ether, is the rest of the cell. But again, what I want to talk about is the Mayan 9-step pyramid. Give it a few seconds while I find this image. And there are like hundreds to go through. And I'm not getting a signal. Typical, stop working. See if I can find the 9-step pyramid. You have to bear with us. Now, the 9-step pyramid, though it's like people struggle with it, it's got so much information, I'm not surprised, but once you're able to see it, right, I know it's reversed, so there's not much I can do about that. The 13 universal tones are along the bottom. That's the 7-day week. Yeah? So Monday to Friday is including, where am I? Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. Right? So that's the planets going along the bottom. Yeah? Each day. So you got Monday, which is Moon Day. But the planets are all wrong. They're in the wrong order. So it should be Moon Day, Monday, Moon, Mercury, then Venus is Wednesday, and Sun is the 4th day. That's important for this image, because the 9. So you got, so this whole thing, this whole image represents the luminaries, just the 7 planets, and the 9 levels of consciousness are the 7 planets, plus the firmament, the crystalline sea above the firmament, and then above that. So that's what it all represents. Yeah. But the ones that we're interested in, the most interesting ones that we are bothered about. So all the root races of this as well. So the root races are the first race, which is the Polarians, which are single cells. The second race is the Hyperboreans, I think it is. I can't remember the root race. So anyway, all the root races represent the luminaries. So whatever luminary is reigning over at that time, that's the root race. And as it goes through to the next step, you have all the sub-root races within it. Yeah? Have it that way. So, where was I? Yeah, the steps that we're interested in are the top one down to the fourth. The fourth down. The fourth one down represents Jupiter. And then Jupiter's reign on the fourth day, remember, Monday to Friday along the bottom. Monday to Friday along the bottom. On the fourth day, which is Sunday, the sun, it's going to be the peak because the fourth day is the middle of the week. Right, so you've got the middle of the week, which is the fourth day, which is the sun day. That's the zenith. So if all the planets or the luminaries start off at 9 o'clock and they work their way up, that's the zenith. That's at 12 o'clock, which represents the middle, which represents the sun day. Yeah, so in the middle of the week is when it's at its zenith, then it goes down again. Yeah, so then you've got Jupiter reigns. So Jupiter reigns on the fourth step and then it goes down. Now, each step consists of, the first step, the first bottom step, consists of 16.4 billion years of that full week. So the full week lasts 16.4 billion years. The week, 13 days and nights, are broken up into days. So the night is still classed as a day. Up and down now. So it's just a wave. Now, each step of the 9-step pyramid gets 20 times quicker. And light gets 20 times smaller. So, the first step, the moon in the womb, all the cells are the biggest cells it can be at that stage. Then they get projected on Earth. So all life's huge on Earth and gradually gets smaller as you go up consciousness. Yeah. The reason for this is harmonics. So that's the first one. You half it. You've got half the size now. Yeah. You half them again. It's a cell division. Yeah. So you half it again, you get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now these smaller ones stick together and become bigger. Making sense? So the single cells on Earth were huge, then they gradually got smaller and smaller and smaller, so stuck together and become the second root race, which are, they'll be the animals that are in water, obviously, because they're in the womb, and they'll be translucent because the bubbles, though they're sticking together, are still see-through because there's not many bubbles there. So you have like jellyfish and things like that, things that are translucent that you can see through. So from small, tiny single cells to multiple cells, but you can still see through them. And then gradually they become more and more dense as you become more and more man or human, if you like. So again, this is just consciousness at that stage from the cells that are creating man. So in the first step, 60.4 billion years is the first stage. That takes the first 7 days. So the first 7 days after a fertilized egg, it takes 7 days for the egg to travel up to the uterus or Garden of Eden. So consciously, when you're fertilized, or the egg's been fertilized, it takes 60.4 billion years consciously to travel up to the fallopian tubes. In that time, all those single cells consciously are sticking together eventually to become the second root race. The second step is Mercury. The third step is represented by Venus. The fourth step is represented by the Sun. And each one of these stages, cells are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and sticking together and becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, or another life form. And eventually, you're birthed. So, in our reality, Gaia's done the exact same pattern as this, yeah? So, at the fourth stage, consciously on Earth, the ego was birthed. The ego was born. The ego is every single evil thing that's ever been fucking done on Earth was because the ego did not know who it was. That's the demiurge. Listen to the Gnostic text. It's talking about Sophia. Sophia's the moon, or the womb consciousness, and it created from itself, asexually, it created division. It created a life form from itself, where it's just cell division. So Sophia, the conscious of the womb, the first cells, divided asexually, and because it did that, it made it imperfectly. So it created, the demiurge was created, the sense of self. Now remember, that's projected out into other life forms before it's projected out as you. So all those other life forms are egos. All life is ego. Consciously. They believe in themselves. They think that they are it. So when it consciously man is birthed on earth, so man's birthed and he doesn't know who he is. Yeah, so that's the great flood. That's birth. The water's breaking, and it's after the third stage in the cell cycle. You've got the same cycle. You've got 7 stages of the cell. Those 7 stages represent the luminaries, the same as the Mayan 9-step pyramid. So those 7 stages in the cell, the first stage, the longest stage, the G1 stage, that's the growth stage. That's the first 7 days of creation. That's the first 7 days it takes for the egg to travel up the fallopian tubes. That's why that stage of the cell takes so long. It's the longest stage of the cell. The next stage is shorter again, shorter than the first stage. That's the second stage. That's the synthetic stage. And that's the second root race, the second planet. So that's Mercury. The third one's Venus. Then there's I think at the third stage, there's a gateway in the cell. And in the gateway, it's they say DNA, but DNA is us, man, memories. So the DNA doesn't go forward after that stage. Now, what doesn't go forward if we're the DNA? When man gets wiped out, that was the Atlanteans and the Great Flood and the whole earth being flooded. That was the waters breaking. You come out of Eden and you don't know who you are. You're born into this world and you haven't got a clue. You don't know who you are. You don't know why you're here. So it's where, why, the 6 questions. Where, when, why. Where, when, why, who, how, and the other one, the 6 altogether. Anyway, the consciousness of the ego doesn't know who it is when it's birthed. Yeah. So at that point, the Atlanteans didn't know, well, they knew who they were, but at that point, they get scattered around the earth. And then they've got to start off at different places to create these different cultures around the world that now know or did know the truth. So the Mayan and all of that, and we call them the Mayan, but they weren't the Mayan. You need to understand, everybody did come from Africa, and everybody is black. In ancient Kemet, now it depends on when this was, but ancient Kemet was definitely before birth. I don't know if it was the Atlanteans. I don't know if that's what they were classed as, but it was Africa, and Africa is known as Eden. So the Garden of Eden was Africa. Now, Eden simply means well-watered place. People are going to start talking about, is it Edinburgh in Scotland and things like that? Well, look, Eden simply means well-watered place. Scotland's well-watered, yeah? But it isn't there. People need to understand how it works. So, cymatic patterns is the other thing you need to know. Cymatic patterns, there's lots of images of cymatics. People say it's light and all this other stuff, right? Well, there is basic images for this first, when they first done it, the cymatic patterns. And there's a list of them. There's not many. I mean, you can get millions of cymatic patterns. Every single thing that's ever been created vibrates and got resonant frequency will have a cymatic pattern that goes with it. So every single tone that ever existed has got a cymatic pattern that goes with it. But we're not talking about them. We're talking about the base ones. So, and that goes with the cell. Yeah, so you work out with a cell the cymatic patterns. So the first, when the cell's first formed, the first cymatic pattern is a circle with a circle in the center. That's the first cell. So you got the whole cell and you got the nucleus of the cell. You can't say the nucleolus because it's within the nucleus. So you'll only say the circle within a bigger circle. That's the first cymatic pattern. The second one has a line through the center of it. So it's a circle with a circle in the center and a line through it. That's cell division. Because the next one, it goes into 4. There's a line going down the center and a line going across. Now you've got 4 parts to it. That cell's now divided from 1 to 2, and then 2 into 4, and so on and so on and so on. So what the cell does is it keeps dividing, but we're not going to divide that many times because we're just looking at one cell, not the overall whole cell, as it keeps regenerating, which is what they do. So that first cell divides with cymatic patterns, yeah. That cymatic pattern is only recognized in the center of the cell. Yeah, so in the nucleus of the cell, you'll have a cymatic pattern. the same amount of pattern is the Earth's surface. So the Earth's surface is a cymatic pattern. And when you go up in frequency, the cymatic pattern changes. So it goes, and you'll get to a resonant frequency. That resonant frequency, everything vibrates really, really badly or a lot. So, for instance, if you're doing this experiment with a speaker and you're doing it with putting something, salt or sand or something on a metal surface, you put the vibration through it, you'll get the cymatic pattern. Once it gets to the resonant frequency of that metal, it vibrates a lot more and all that sound will jump off. You have to turn the volume right down. Those resonant frequencies are the cymatic pattern changing. So it doesn't change going, it'll change slightly, not much. Then it'll get the resonant frequency. Once it gets that harmonic or the octave, the whole pattern completely changes quickly within that one tone. So that, let's say it's 153 hertz. 154 hertz, it'll start to vibrate like that. 155 hertz, it'll start to stop it. So it's one frequency, it'll create that resonance where it jumps all over. That's the cymatic pattern change. It changes completely into the new shape. But basically, it's the same shape getting more and more complicated. So it's the same shape, but then have more circles, more circles, and more circles, more circles. That's all it is. So those cymatic patterns, it gets until when you got this list at the very bottom of it, 2 in from the end, the left side, you'll see it looks like cell division. That's when the cell has been divided. Psychokinesis, or cytokinesis. Cyte being a cell. Cytokinesis. And that's cell division. So it's a cell dividing within itself. The cell never divides outside of itself. So you don't get a cell dividing into another cell outside of the cell that it's in. So you've got the universal cell, you, or the ovum. And within that, the cells divide, and then the cell itself gets bigger. Does that make sense? And the reason it's getting bigger is because you're drawing energy in. What are you drawing in? Melanin gas. The stuff you breathe. Electricity. You breathe that energy in, and you store it as carbon. And they say carbon. You store it as other bubbles. So the bubbles are sticking together until you get to a certain size, and you'll stay that size until you get cooked. So it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter with the breaths, and the expansion and compression, and eating food and getting angry, and all those things generate the heat, and you eventually cook, and then you're done. Right, so where does that take you up to? I was going to say, if there's any questions, anyone seeing anything? See, I thought this was going to take ages, but it doesn't really, because it's so simple. So anyway, what else have we got? So cymatic patterns. Okay, we'll go to the Mayan 9-step pyramid again. Right, I've probably lost the image now. I'll find it again. Because I want to explain how time works or doesn't work. So, on the 4th step, that step, the time on the 4th step is 5,125 years. That's the total length of time of that step. One of the calendars, I remember watching a video somewhere and they're saying like it was either Hindu or Chinese or someone, there's some culture somewhere where they use a calendar and they say the calendar is a 5,125 year calendar. And you're like, no, that's just one calendar for one stage. Yeah? That's just one stage of it. So whoever was recording time at that point was only recording time from the point of view of that stage, that step. Before that, the next step down lasted 102,000 years. The next step down from that lasted 2.5 million years. Then 41 million, then 820 million, and then 16.4 billion. So 16.4 billion, and then it's 20 times quicker. That takes it up to 820 million, and 20 times quicker, 41 million, 2.5, 102,000. But the 4th step, which was Jupiter, lasted 5,125 years. Midway through that point, yeah, was when it was reigning or ruling, and everyone recognised Jupiter was the Lord. But the Lord simply means the law of each luminary. The laws are the zodiac, or the consciousness of each planet. Yeah, so what they're attached to. You already know, if you know astrology, you know each planet's got its consciousness and it's got its parts to play as consciousness, if that makes sense. So the fourth stage, like I say, was Jupiter. So the fourth step, hang on a minute. The fourth step there. That was Jupiter's reign. Then it was Saturn's reign. And Saturn, you can't see the numbers on this. You have to go to the image. It's all over my Facebook. So Saturn started in 1755. It was exactly the 11th of July in 1755, if you go with the Gregorian calendar. So 1755 was actually a made-up date. It wasn't 1755, right? Because you have to understand that Saturn's reign was for 256 years. So if you go back 256 years from now, yeah, that was Saturn's reign. It wasn't fucking thousands of years ago like the Bible says, not like that. It was, they tricked you with it, right? So what they actually done, so in 1755, which was 755, right, take 1,000 years off. The reason you take 1,000 years off, because like I say, each day has its own time. And on the bottom step, each day, so the 16.4 billion years was the full step, but each day had 1.20, I think it is, I can't really say the number. I think it's a 1.2, must be, something I don't know. But it's 1 point something million years per day, yeah? And it comes to 60.4 altogether. So when you got the Saturn's step, which was this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Saturn's 7. Saturn's step lasted 256 years with 19.7 years per day, 13 days. The Jupiter one lasted 364 days per day for 5,125 years. Now, if you take 3 days, it's just going to be complicated because you can't see the image, but you take 3 days off the Jupiter step, and that's where the Dark Ages were. So the Dark Ages, were there. That's where they say the Dark Ages were. So the Dark Ages went after the centre, and it was after the Jupiter reigned. So at the end of this step, we didn't know who we were, but they say that Dark Ages started from there, but it didn't. It started from there. And then you go to the Saturn, which is the next step up. So what actually happened was they added 1,000 years. The reason they added 1,000 years is so they could create history. They just created it. They made up 1,000 years worth of history. Black people were all over the world. Everybody was black. Japanese people were black. So all Chinese people come from Africa. And there is a tribe that they know is from. They went north. Everyone from Africa went north as well. And what happens when you go north? Well, it gets cold. Yeah. Okay, look at the polar bear. The polar bear is a black bear or a brown bear that went north. It went cold, so it needs to blend in and it become white. The Arctic fox does the same thing. The Arctic hare does the same thing. In summertime, they're no longer white. They change colour. So it tells you that if you go to a cold climate, that this, well, okay, what is actually happening is you're getting away from the centre. So Jerusalem was the centre of the earth. Right? Don't think Jerusalem where it is now. Jerusalem was known as the centre of the earth. What's important about that? Well, the centre represents the centre of your head, right in the very centre, not the top, which is the North Pole, not the bottom, which is the South Pole. This very in your head, the optic thalamus, right? That's Jerusalem on Earth. So you've got the whole Earth plane, brain plane, where we are, represents the whole brain, yeah? But on it is a flat plane, and it starts with the top, with the inner circle, and then it goes out in flat circles, concentric circles, and goes out. Each one of those represents the luminaries. Moon first, small, next circle out, Mercury, next circle out, Venus, next circle out, the Sun, and so on. So you'll have 8 below and 8 above the equator. So 8 circles in and 8 circles out after the equator. That's how it actually works. So where was I? Yeah, Jerusalem was the centre of the brain. Now, if you're in the centre, so now you've got to go to the labyrinth. The labyrinth is the centre of the labyrinth. We're going to call it Jerusalem. Yeah? So everybody who's dark with melanin wise, is because they're closer to the centre of the brain. The further you away from the centre you get, the lighter your hue gets. And that's how you get hue man. Now remember, these circles, the concentric circles, represent the luminaries. So if you're closer to the centre of the luminary, though it starts at the North Pole, we're not going to look like that. We're looking from the centre of the creator or of consciousness. So that is in the centre of, or Jerusalem is the centre of that. So the further you get away from Jerusalem, the lighter you're going to get. The darker your hue is the closer you are to the centre. That's all. Now that's within you. So don't think that white man means you're not close to the creator. Now I'll get to, it's in the Gnostic teachings that actually show why there's people here that we call NPCs or the evil ones. I call them the sun chain and the moon chain. And it wasn't until I heard the Gnostic text just the other day and I was like, ah, you see, it's the same thing. So, now it's going to be hard for people to accept, but you're going to be able to see what I'm saying because of the people around you. Not every human will remember the truth. And the reason for that, I worked it out in a slightly different way, because it's me. But the Gnostic text, it says that Sophia created the demiurge, and the demiurge is the ego. But this eons, they call them, I think, in the Gnostic text. I think they're called eons, because eons to us is time. But eons were known as creations. So the eons were the creations, but there were some eons that weren't created by the creator. So this is where you get a bit, how does that work? So how can some people be created by the creator and others weren't created by the creator, but yet they're still here? How did that work? Okay, your consciousness, when you were birthed, you were still a baby, you were still small, yeah? But those cells that make your heart and everything else still grow, still getting bigger. So this part of you that were created after birth, yeah? The same goes for Gaia. So Gaia was created in the creation, in the waters, but when she was birthed, when the waters break, consciously, when the waters broke, there were still people on earth that were from the creator. And remember, there's a mass flood, there were certain people from the creator. But these people who were created after that point, who haven't got the history of the chain that goes back into the womb, there was people created on the earth that weren't created by the creator, they were created by man. Now, how does that work? Well, it's the same answer to your question when you go, well, how was man created? How did we get to be created like this if there was no human to create another human? And I'm like, I hope nobody asks this question because it's a hard one to answer. And then I remembered something. I remembered a video by an Indian lad who goes to all the temples. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he went to this temple once. He's done loads of temples all over the world. They're all Hindus and all this. But anyway, he went to this one temple and he couldn't understand why it had no inscriptions, no idols, nothing. There was no sculptures or anything there. But there was on this one wall. I can't remember what it was though. Anyway, he couldn't work out why or what this place was. But what they had there was some jars, these earthenware, if you like, these big jar vases things. And it also had images of different life forms. Anyway, he worked out that these were growing things in these pots. So how many of you have heard of, it was during the changeover event in the Cabbage Patch Children and the orphan trains and things like that? Yeah, there would have been lots of orphans when there was a cataclysm because there would have been lots of people killed and there would have been children survived. But I'm also inclined to think that man, yeah, again, don't think modern times, don't think we think like we do now, because that's been put onto you. But what if man was having sex with lots of different animals or getting eggs from different animals, ovums, and then inserting it with a sperm cell and incubating it and then creating a life form? Did man create life forms with his own sperm and different eggs of different animals from around the world and incubate them to create different animals? Did man do that with man? is there's some man that's been created outside of the womb in an incubator. Yeah. So man created other man as slaves, and it was allowed. If you listen to Gnostic texts, it was allowed. And the reason it did this is because everything had its place. Now, if you think that there's evil in the world, then you are fucked, basically. There is no evil in the world. There is no elite in the world. The elite simply represent the ego of Gaia. So what does the ego do? Well, let's just say 1% of your brain is the ego. It's just a belief. Yeah? And you created that belief. You weren't born with that belief. It was, your script was, but it was created. It was generated by your belief in the ego. It was generated by everything around you. So everyone around you told you, or told me I was called Rob, and I was this, and I was that, and you're going to be this, and you're going to be that, and this is, and you listen to all those things, and then you become those things, and you attach them, and you go, this is me. I'm this, I'm the brother, I'm the son, I'm the friend, I'm this, I'm a worker, I'm all these other things, and you're none of those things. Those things have been created for you and put onto you. You believe they're true, but it's just a script. It isn't true. It isn't you. You, the true you, is the black dot. The mind sitting there doing nothing. The mind doesn't do things. The ego does the things. The mind had to create the ego so it could have these experiences, because the mind can't do that. The mind doesn't do things. It doesn't do anything. The mind's making me speak. Rob's not making me speak. Rob's is the vessel, but the mind makes me speak. The mind is going, making these sounds come out my face. The mind created the mobile phone. The mind did that. The mind's telling you to listen. Not everybody's listening, but the ones who are, the mind's told them to listen because you're important. If you weren't important, you wouldn't be listening. It's as simple as that. And the people think, oh, Rob, you think you're all that. Look, I'm claiming to be the mind. You can claim to be whatever you fucking want. I'm not bothered what you claim to be. So people go, you can't know the end date though, Rob. Only the creator knows the end date. Well, I'm claiming to be the creator, hence why I'm showing the date. I mean, it's not hard. Now, the date. The end date being the 31st of October, 2024. Now, you've got to understand, before this date, I said for many years that it was the 25th of December. So it was from the 21st of December to the 25th was the week of the plasma event. It wasn't until I was looking at the 9-step pyramid and I corrected all the dates on it that you see it actually ends in the 31st of October. Now, I'm just basing the 31st of October on that pattern. There's other people starting to say the 21st of December or the 25th of December. So, it's only a 2-month gap. So, I truly don't care if it ends in the 31st of October or if it ends at the 25th of December. I'm not bothered. I literally don't care. It's a 2-month gap, and the speed of time now is going to be unbelievably quick. And the other thing about time just gets quicker. So, although you're on one step, the start of that step is slower than the end of that step. Remember, the 9-step pyramid is basically a spiral, a big spiral at the bottom, getting smaller and smaller and smaller as it goes up. And our time is represented by that circle around the spiral. Yeah? So, the beginning of the last step, where we are now, started in March the 11th. Yeah? Though it's quicker than all the other steps, it's still going to get quicker again. So, it's still spiraling up to the one point, or the singularity point, the mind at the very top of that full spiral, right at the very top. Now we're right near the top, so the end of that is either December or 31st of October. But like I say, time's going to speed up. So even if you got to the 31st of October, the gap between the 31st of October and December is going to be minuscule. It'll be like that. I mean, it's nearly June, for Christ's sake. This year's just flew over. I still think, yeah, I've done lots of things, or I've done things. But when I think Christmas, it seems like ages ago, but it wasn't, was it? It was just there. And it's happened really, really quickly. So it's the perception of time that speeds up, not time itself. As people keeping a look on clocks and using analog clocks and digital clocks and going, oh, this clock needs winding up. Yeah, I get that. But again, you've got to base it on day and night, not 5 minutes and 10 minutes. Yeah, it's day and night, how fast day and night happens. Remember, it's the sun and the moon that give us what we perceive as time, yeah? And they rotate opposite each other in a circle, yeah? So they're just rotating round, but they're rotating up. So they're getting closer and closer near the top, and when they're getting closer and closer near the top, it's like a pyramid, isn't it? So they're going around it. and they're getting closer and closer and closer. So the night and day that we perceive as night and day is what's getting quicker. Yeah, it's spiraling, and the gap in between night and day is the time, what we perceive as time. But you can't measure it like that, because the whole universe is fucking turning at that speed. So you can't go, oh, my analog clock's saying it's this time. Yeah, it seems slow, but you won't perceive how slow that time, how fast time is speeding up. You won't perceive it on a normal clock. You'll perceive it as in you'll feel it. You can't say it. Because night and day is night and day. You're in it. So it's either light or it's dark, or it's night or it's day. And it's always seems the same from light or dark. You only perceive that time. It feels quicker. It feels that you've got less time in the day. So the perception of time is what's speeding up. In the 1700s, we'll go back to the 1700s, the main second. In the 1700s, it created 1,000 years and added on. In that 1,000 years, it created the history that we've been told. Yeah? So everything got created. It's 1,000 years. Right? If you want to make up history, and you've got 1,000 years to play with, you can make up anything you want. You can make up dates, you can make up calendars, and it only takes 3 generations. 3. And how I work that out is like, well, how much do I know about my great-grandparents? So I knew my mum, I didn't know my dad, he died when I was 4, but I knew my mum, I knew my nana and granddad, but their mother and father, not a clue. Nothing. I don't know anything about them. I mean, people could tell us, but it's going to be hearsay. So me knowing them, no, can't, doesn't exist. I can only be told things, yeah? That's just 3 generations. Me, my parents, and then her parents, or their parents. Yeah, that's 3 generations. That's it. And beyond that, you don't have a clue. So, hearsay is what you know. So you can only be told things by the people who are alive. And if they're not alive, then you don't have a clue. And you can only be told things about that. So, okay, multiply that on the whole earth. 3 generations back, everything's been made up. You go back 1,000 years, you have not got a clue. Not a clue what was happening. Nothing. They can tell you what the fuck they're like, and you'll believe it because you've got nothing else to go on. Bar pyramids and all these other objects around the world that are massive and prove that time didn't start there. And man didn't start a couple of 1,000 years ago. That's stupid. It's dumb. It's just ridiculous. Now, the problem with science is everyone will keep going back and then try to work out reality using the sciences. And I'm telling you, if you want to use science, you will not work it out. You cannot use science at all. Remember, it goes back 1,000 years and they made up shit. So you can't go using science to work anything out. You can't go, well, I'm going to use this bit of science to work it out and go, it makes sense. No, it doesn't. You're using science and the chat shit. All of it. The atom is wrong. Quantum physics is talking about the cymatic pattern. Wave energy. That's what quantum physics is mistakenly thinking is physics. And it's got nothing to do with objects. There is no electrons. So someone asked us once, what's a meteor? What's this shooting star? It's what science would call an electron. That's what it is. It's energy flowing around the bubble that we're on. And it looks like it's coming towards you, but it's not really. It's going around. It's like the sun and the moon. They look like they're coming towards you, but they're just turning in a circle. Do you know what I mean? So when you say something coming towards you, it's not really. It's going around the firmament. But it's getting projected. You think you're seeing it, and it's not. Satellites don't fall from space. None of this happens. If anything's on a balloon, it's floating around. Yeah, the balloon can pop and it can collapse and it'll fall. But it doesn't burn up. But that was one of the debates I had many years ago about the Chinese space station burning up. And I'm like, how does metal burn in air? How does that work? The science will tell you all this bullshit. And you just think about the last time you saw metal burning because air was being blown onto it. I don't care how fast the air's blowing. When I was having this debate about 7 years ago, the lad was saying, I was like, just tell us the wind speed that needs to happen. You need for something to burn up. And he went 17,000 miles an hour. So you're telling me if you can produce an airspeed of 17,000 miles an hour, I'll put a metal object in front of it, the metal object will burn. Is that what you're saying? That's illogical. That makes absolutely no sense. If that was the case, then people would weld with air. You just use air. I'm going to put air over this metal and put the air out fast enough, it'll melt the metal. That doesn't happen, does it? So no. Fucking things don't fall from through the earth and then burn up. It doesn't happen. So there's no shooting stars. There's no meteors or nothing. No. These are things that are flowing around the firmament. Call it electron if you want, but electrons don't exist. Again, if you take a picture of a shooting star and you think, oh, look, that's literally what science has done. And they went, look, there's an electron. No, you've took a freeze frame image of something that's moving. And then you call it electron. You say, oh, got them flowing around. No, it's a fucking flux line. And it's always there. And you'll flow along it. And you take a picture and you're flowing along it. But that doesn't mean it's there. That just means energy is flowing around it constantly. Jesus. So, yes, you can't use science to work it out. You're literally, new science, if you're looking at, you call it science if you like. Science is just knowledge, isn't it? Science, I'm sure it just means gnosis or knowledge. Excuse me. So, yeah, they added 1,000 years, and in that time, they added everything that you know. They changed things. Oh, right. Nothing new under the sun. This is a new topic. I was going to write about this, but decided to keep it for this talk. Nothing new under the sun. Nothing. And I mean nothing. If we've got it, it's been here before. So every single thing that's ever been invented has been here before. So computers have been here before. Therefore, AI has been here before. Right. People have said this before as well. So when you look at the script that was created in the 1700s, there's a narrative that goes around all these buildings around the earth. There's many people doing on YouTube showing you this. And all the narratives are the same. There was a great fire. There was the architects. There's a competition. Someone won a competition. Or they've got the same architects with the same names. And these architects all around the world building these places. And they weren't just nobodies, right? Well, that narrative I'm saying was created by the AI, and there's somebody else saying that was created by AI. And you go, well, what AI? Artificial intelligence wasn't created until just not long ago. There's nothing new under the sun. So, what were the pyramids in the Giza Plateau? What was it? Now, you've got to make a Tellinger. This is years ago when I first heard this. Years and years ago, and I thought, yeah, because I couldn't explain it, but now I can. So, remember, life gets smaller, yeah, and more complicated. The cymatic pattern is basic, and the longer it over time, the pattern gets more complicated. That's all it does. It gets more and more complex. So think of inventions. So the Giza Plateau. Don't think of it like you've been told. Think of it like it's a machine. You are creating a computer, but you used. Now you can see the rocks now. Mother Shipton's cave. You know that things can calcify really quickly if there's enough calcium deposit in the water. So water pouring over any object can create stone, or what looks like stone or rock. Yeah, I mean, I've got an image I shared not long ago where there's a ladder going down and there's been water poured on the ladder, natural water, it's a spring or something, and the ladder that's sticking from above the ground, it's on you can see it, you can see the whole ladder. It's like on a cliff or something. The ladder, part of the ladder that's above the cliff just looks like a normal ladder. The ladder that's below the cliff, where the water's been running on it, is now just look like a ladder made of rock. So, were the pyramids made of other things and then got covered in water and become calcified? It looks like it's rock. Were they machine parts or computer parts? So the city, what you'd think is the city, is actually part of the computer, the circuit board. So the pyramids were part of the power source of the circuit board. And all the buildings that we see as buildings weren't actually buildings with a circuit board. Now remember, the people that were building this stuff were giants. So this would have been small to them. So what's happened over time is the computer just got smaller and smaller and smaller. And we call them now a microchip. Well, that chip wasn't micro once. It was much bigger. And then you go back, the creation, these things would have been huge. Yeah? They would have been on the land. Why did they create this computer? Why would it have been created in the first place? Okay, nothing new under the sun. If you live over there and I live over here, how do you create one consciousness? You've got to create the internet. I remember years ago saying the internet is just the modern day connections between the overall brain. So it's the physical connections of Gaia's brain is the internet. It connects all the parts of the brain together. Individuals, we are the brain cells, and it connects all together. Well, that's going to be needed all of the time, surely. So in the early days, you still needed to have an internet. And if you listen to the Book of Thoth, it says he created something like this. And he created the internet, or this grid system that connected everyone in the earth. Well, I'm just going to go, well, that was the internet. And the reason they did it was to join all parts of the earth. That's why you've got pyramids all over the earth. You go, well, how did they know that when there's thousands of miles gaps? This is how they had the internet. Everyone was connected, and everybody knew the truth. And again, you get to a cataclysm, all that gets wiped out, and then you have to discover the mysteries. You have to go back to Egypt for this. You have to go back and get the mysteries and discover all this technology that's there, and then you have to work out how to use it. So you have to reverse engineer it. So when they went to Americas, they would have found all these things, all these cities that were already there, these brilliant white cities, and all these other places all around the earth, excuse me, that had been using the internet and had worked all these things out. So then you've got the conquistadors going around the world, discovering all these places and these hidden things. Now, these things were hidden because what we say is now caves or melted rocks. So you had massive buildings all over the earth. I'm not saying all these buildings were computers. I'm saying the early ones. But later on they had technology, and the technology would have got smaller. So at some point you built these, they would have had buildings that wouldn't all just be in a circuit board. I'm not saying the whole earth was a circuit board. I'm not saying nothing like that. That was just a connection to connect all man as one, because I had been separated. And after that, you've got so anyway. So man comes around in the 1700s to go out the world. They find these machines, lots of machines in Americas and things like that. They would have been all over the world. Because their civilization got wiped out, you discover it, but what didn't get wiped out was some of the machines. Not all of them. Some of them would have been wiped out still, but not all of them would have been wiped out. Some of the things were discovered. Now, let's say they discovered artificial intelligence. And they had to reverse engineer it, and they worked out how to use it. And the computer told them to create 1,000 years worth of history. And it creates a narrative for them, this AI, because that's what it is, this artificial intelligence. It creates a narrative. It just writes scripts. It could just write a script for you. So it just creates a script. Right? When I create a script, we've got to take it away from the truth. Just do it like that. And then it just prints it out. You print it and you go, oi, we've got a printing press now, and we're going to create these prints. And then we're going to write the Bible. I mean, you're telling me that Francis Bacon and fucking Francis Bacon was supposed to have wrote the King James Bible. Francis, again, means French or France. French bacon. Bacon, like I said before, you go all the way back and it gets to peasant. It takes a while to get there, but you look at the etymology of it, you get the peasant. What's wrong with the peasant? The peasants didn't live in the city, they lived in the countryside. So the bacon went about the countryside, right? So everybody in the countryside, well, it actually meant, not rural, it was rustic, that was it, rustic. And rustic simply meant dumb, not clever. Yeah? So rustic or rural was the countryside where people were the peasants and they didn't know the truth. Yeah? So Babylon, specifically, were the cities where you had a technology to remember who you were. Yeah? The mysteries. So you had to go to a city to that. You had to go to a city to do that. Otherwise, you were in a village, in the countryside, living off the land. Everyone thinks, yeah, we should live like that. That's brilliant, you can live like that, but you will not work out the truth living like that. You need to literally have people living together and sharing ideas before you'll work it out. Otherwise, you're going to have what hearsay from your village, and it'll be nothing. Or your hearsay will be based on tradition, and it'll be based on, it could be based on the truth, but it's now Chinese whispers. So it'll still be hidden from you. You won't actually know what your traditions actually stood for in the beginning. You won't know what they represent and what they actually mean. So you'd have to go to a city for that. A universities. Yeah, so you had to go to the university to work out or to know who you are, where you are, why you are, when you are, and all the rest of it. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, there's nothing new under the sun. The artificial intelligence is nothing new. Artificial intelligence was created by the mind to show that the ego is the artificial intelligence. All evil in the world is created by the ego because it doesn't know who it is. But remember, all this is preordained. It all has to happen the way it does. There is no mistakes. So the elite are just the collective ego of Gaia. They are the collective ego of man. Now what does the ego do? It convinces the rest of the brain you and I, that the ego has the power. The false deity is the ego. The elite represent the ego. They stand for the ego. That's what they represent. The physical, the body, the vessel, the ego, which is not real. So if you're going to say the elite have power, no. They are just, they represent the ego. They're not evil, just like you're not evil. Your ego can do what we perceive as evil things. So if I was to go out and kill somebody, that's not the mind killing somebody. That's the ego killing somebody. Because the mind, no, there's no killing, there's no death, there is no right, there is no wrong, there's just an experience. How you perceive that experience will be based on how you got brought up, and that is the ego. Get rid of the ego, you get rid of judgments. There is no good, there is no bad, there is no evil, there is no right, there is no wrong. Yeah? There's just you knowing you're the one mind. If you don't know you're the one mind, then by definition, you have to be the ego. There's only two consciousnesses, the ego or the one mind. The ego is the sense of self that believes the script that you've been told. Hearsay. You've been told everything you've been told. Yeah? So the AI didn't create the truth. The AI created the script. Yeah? So the script that everybody follows, the narrative, yeah, that everybody follows, the paradigm, that was created by the artificial intelligence. Yeah? It just creates a script. People then go, right, we're going to teach this. So they created schools and all the rest of it. There's, again, if you're able to, you can say that the mind created everything and there's no good, there's no bad. So the mind can only use nature for man. So man then creates all things we know of based on nature. And it's based on maritime law and all of that because we came from the waters. The waters are first. So the waters are really important. But everything, so what they've done is made you a ship. Yeah, that's all they've done. Because the body is a vessel, a ship. So the body's a vessel for the mind. See, this body is the ship. So what they've done is made it an actual ship. Why? For trade. That's why you can get you know when you go to jail. I've taught you loads of patterns that make you a ship. All the English words are talking about ships. You don't christen people, you christen ships to name the ship. So they've got you believing that that's what you should do when you with this religion. Well, it's not. The religion is simply about ships in trade. And they've made you the ship. You believe that these words mean, oh, this is me and about me. It's not. It's about the ship. So your ships are birth, the shipping birth, right? Ship's birth. So get away from all that. It's some more evidence. So you can get bail when you go if you get arrested. Yeah, you're under arrest and you get bail. What's another word for bail? Well, it's a sinking ship. You've got to bail it out. Yeah, that's why you've got bail, making you the ship. You know when you've got a business and it collapses, bankrupt. Why is bankrupt? Well, you become bankrupt. What does bankrupt mean? Bank is a river bank. Rupt is a rupture. You've ruptured the hull of the ship. You've run aground. Yeah? It's now bankrupted. And what happens? It sinks. Why? Because you're a ship and you're a sinking ship now because you went bankrupt. Your hull's been ruptured. Yeah, you're sinking. Do you know what I mean? So the language should tell you that all they've done is made you the ship. Get away from corporations and all that other stuff. They've literally made you a ship. That's why you have a surname, a subname. That name in capital letters is the name of the ship. The boat. You get a ship and you call it something and you put the name on that ship. And where do they say it's going to be? Your name is the mark of the beast is going to be on your forehead. Where? Your brow. The bow of the ship. So the bow of the ship's got your name. Honestly, if you work it out, it's really, really, really simple. They've simply made you the ship. And they're doing shipping and trade with that. The CCQV Trust and all that is based on the ship and the ship's worth and how much value you can get from the ship in its future. Because ships are valued by how much work they can do sailing. That's your sweat equity. So your CCQV Trust is based on your sweat equity that you can do as a ship. When you do what I do and you wake up and you go, I'm not doing anything anymore. I'm not going to chase the golden fleece. I'm not going to change money because money's not a thing. It doesn't exist, remember. It's just a belief. You've got to get rid of all the beliefs. If you think you're going to create a better world and start again, you're wrong. Jesus Christ. The amount of people, do you know how I know this is right? How I'm right what I'm saying? I follow lots of different channels watching the change happen over time. So I follow people who are following the law and changing the law and all of that, and fighting against the system. Well, one of those people, there was a video yesterday by, or the other day, by Bannerman on YouTube, and it was down in Nottingham Forest, and there was a few people there, and they were getting sworn in as sheriffs, as opposed to police. And then these people are going to have they're going to be sheriffs, they're going to have more power than the police do. And these are just natural men and women getting sworn in, because this is how we do it, this is all it is. But one of the men that was getting sworn in says, I'm getting sworn in, I'm swearing to God and all that, well, I'm swearing to the Creator. He went, but I'm an atheist. I'm like, you're swearing to God or the Creator, and in the same sentence you're saying you're an atheist. That's how I know that changing laws or follow it, no, still won't work. You can still see all them things and go, oh, law's wrong and we should need to be sovereign and all that. You still don't know who you are. You still don't know who the Creator is. You're fucked. Or you're one of the sun chain. You weren't created from the moon chain. So the people that were created after birth, I say they're the sun chain because it's the sun reality, the masculine reality. But think of it like a plant. When you get a seed, you go from seed and you've got that we'll call that the mother plant. Yeah, in cannabis. So you get a seed, you go from a seed and you get the mother plant. It's the feminine plant. You then take cuttings from that plant. Yeah, you want more, so you take a cutting, you take a branch off it, you'll take a cutting, you'll plant it, and it'll grow. It'll look like the mother plant and everything. The difference with it, it wasn't grown from seed, and because it wasn't grown from seed, it hasn't got a taproot. The taproot is what you need to tap into to go down back to the one mind to remember everything. So the people that haven't got that taproot, that were created because of cuttings, they were created from the creation. They weren't created by the Creator. They were created by the creation after birth. So all those consciousness that are in the earth that don't remember, that's who they are. They won't remember, they cannot remember, they will not remember, because they have not got the memories within them. They were created afterwards, and they were created by man, not the Creator. They were created by the creation. So that's the sun chain. That's the people that won't wake up. You call that the elites if you want. Now in the Gnostic Bibles, what it says, it talks about these different people. So there's different people on earth. So you've got these ones that weren't created by the Creator, created by man. These people will strive for power, and you'll get power. The mind will give you power because you're going to serve your purpose. So all the elitists will go, yeah, we're the elites, we're going to do this, we've got control of the world. No, the mind let you do that because that's what your soul needed and wanted. So you're allowed to do that, but you're not going back. You're done. The reason for that is because they have to serve a purpose. Right? They have to create this illusion for everybody else, because it's one big, massive test that you created for yourself within this dream. That's it. It's nothing good, bad, anything about it. It's just an experience. But within that experience, you have to wake up from it. You have to wake up from the dream. And to wake up from the dream, you have to remember who you are. Well, basically, you have to remember what you're not, which is the ego, the vessel, the sense of self. There is no separation between me and anybody else. There is outwardly, but inwardly, the black dot, that's the same. Exactly the same as anything else. That black dot isn't a thing. It's the hole in the torus. It's the absence of something. The nothingness. It doesn't do. That's why you can't describe it. That's why you can't give it a name. What do you give the name of nothing? What name do you give it? You can call it the mind. But if you go to science and go, what part of the brain is the mind? They're going to go, we don't know. Because there's no part of the brain that is the mind. Well, there is. Science won't tell you this. But it's the very centre, the black dot, the optic thalamus. It's right in the very centre of the optic thalamus. It's the massa intermedia, and it's the black dot, the pupil of the eye horus. That's the mind's eye. So, and it's the optic thalamus. The optic being sight, and thalamus being a chamber or a room. So the optic thalamus is a chamber or a room within your head that light is seen. That's where you see all the images and everything. And that light is black light. And black light creates white light that creates images, that creates a division. It's really simple. Now, I'm going to put the comments on. I need to know if this is all making sense. Can someone just say if this makes sense or not? So I know what's being said. Where am I? How far back does this go? I don't even know how many people are live. I hope this is even working. Anyway, I can't see many comments. Right, so what we've got now. So let's go. Okay, we'll go to the end. What's happening at the end? I can't see any comments asking if it makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. So in the end, the plasma event, what's going to happen? Well, it's a pressure build-up. So how does that work? Okay, the singularity point of the torus, yeah, the hole, the plane of inertia, is the centre of the firmament. So you got the centre of the firmament, the centre of the whole torus, right in the very centre. So though there's a bubble surrounding the very centre, and the hole is inside of that bubble. The vortex of energy, don't think physical matter here, just think energy swirling. So think of it like wind, if you like. So there's a vortex going down to the singularity point, so it can go through the firmament because it's energy. Physical things don't matter to it. It'll just move it out of the way. We obviously can't move the firmament. So anyway, the firmament is a vortex that comes down. So under the firmament, there's the gas. That gas is getting drawn down to the hole, yeah? But it can't get forced through the hole because it's like an hourglass. So it builds up. So the blood test vortexes keep drawing energy in as it flows around and back in. And it keeps building up in pressure. Then it's released and builds up in pressure and released. That's every heartbeat. But we're going from creation until death. So you are created, then you have heartbeats throughout your life. So the heartbeats are just electricity that we see lightning. So that's a constant. But overall, you've got life and death. So overall, you start off on the plane of inertia, and then all your cells, so we're working on Gaia here, so the breath, so the gas, so you breathe in, and then you become life. So all life did this from the creation, and there was no land, yeah? So land was created by dead life. So you had the bottom of the firmament, so the sphere, the plane of inertia. That surface there gets a crust on it. Now, that crust could be formed because of the heat of the black sun. So you could get crust on it like you would on a cup of coffee, you let it go cold, you get that skin on the top. Well, that's the Earth's surface. Now, that could be there, yeah, before dead life. That could be the melanin becoming thick because of heat and then becoming dense, right? So it could happen that way. But I prefer to think of it because in a cell, there's none of that, yeah. You look at it in a newly cell, there's none of that, there's nothing there. So the cell can create life within it. That life form breathes air, starts off small, breathes air, grows, yeah, like a tree. Starts off as a seed, it's breathing in the gas, storing that gas as carbon, and then grows. The tree then dies and becomes the land. All land is dead life that was just a gas, high frequency, that resonating high frequency comes down, you breathe it, and then you become the land eventually when you die. So now all land is dead life that's building up, right? So the pressure is energy. It was a gas, it was energy or electrical, call it what you want. So you've got this gas that's in the air, you're breathing it, then it becomes you. So it's the energy becoming denser, it's alive still, it's still denser, then you die and it becomes even denser again. So all the land is the build-up of pressure, yeah? It was just a gas, now it's the build-up of pressure. So over a lifetime of the cell, that pressure builds right up of dead life. You can't say this in the cell, this only happens because we're in the cell, that's how we know it's happening. And then at the end of that, there's a plasma event, right? So the plasma event represented by, or is explained through tantric sex. So tantric sex is, from man's point of view, is the build-up of energy from the lowest chakra. If I ejaculate straight away, I ejaculate from the lowest chakra. If I raise it up, and I don't come after, you go, oh, I'm about to, you don't ejaculate, you raise it up, it goes to the next chakra. It's more pressure. And you keep doing this, you keep stopping the ejaculation, because if you ejaculate at this point, it goes from the third chakra. Yeah? You ejaculate from that point. Now, what's important about this is, depending on how much you build the energy up, is how much DNA, or what DNA you're passing on. People say, well, it's the whole of your DNA at that moment. So if you're 50, you can have more DNA or memories than you will do if you're 20 when you have a child. So you'll be passing on more memories to the child when you're 50. We'll think of it like that. So DNA is how much energy you've built up and then it's released. Because most men don't just release from the lower chakra. That's what majority of people do. So they're always producing it from the lowest chakra. If you can produce right at the top, the cosmic orgasm. So anyway, my point being, over time, right, for a man, you build that chakra, build that energy up, not releasing it, till it gets to the crown chakra, then you'd have a cosmic orgasm. Well, that is the equivalent of what's happening on Gaia, on Earth. That pressure is dead life, and it's building up over a lifetime until it gets to the end of the life. And there's enough pressure built up, and then there's a plasma event. The plasma event is the pressure on the connection between the sun and the moon. And once they connect, as in making a circuit, and then that charge will ignite everything else. And you'll see the plasma, the gases will just ignite, the plasma will come down and just melt everything. All that rock that's rock will become molten, become a fluid again, and fit for the whole. And it starts over. So the universe collapses, or the cell collapses, then it regenerates and starts over. That's it. So, how do you know it's coming to an end? The Northern Lights. So what are the Northern Lights? What's the Aurora Borealis? What is it? Okay, well, you know about raising the Christ. Raising the Christ, cerebral spinal fluid, going down the spine and being raised back up. When it gets to the top again, it gets crucified. The crucifixion is the sun and the moon, pineal gland, and the optic thalamus, and you say the truth. Don't think dormant memories. Don't think that. You are the memories. So don't think you got dormant memories. You're not going to wake up. You are the memories, and you literally got to ask questions about yourself to work yourself out, and then you'll say the truth. You won't just go, oh, I'm awakened, I know what's going on. Horse shit. Nobody does that. No one does that. It doesn't happen. It can't. Why? It's a progression. If you got the whole truth straight away, you'd be like, pfft. With me, it took time. It didn't, yeah. I worked out that we lived in a cell. Well, we lived in the brain pretty quickly. I didn't have any cognitive dissonance. I just accepted it. This stuff didn't damage me consciously. Finding these things out, well, yep, that makes sense. Yep, yes, it's that. And I accepted it. Didn't argue it. I was like, that makes sense. It's logical. I'm going to go with it. Because it all makes sense. That's why and if I argue, who am I arguing with? But the bullshit I got told, well, all everybody's told is lies. All that stuff you hear is hearsay. It is based on other people who've heard it from somebody else, including the Bible and everything else. It's all hearsay. Everything you've ever heard, everything you ever see is all hearsay. So you've got to do it yourself. But in that hearsay, excuse me a minute, drop my pen. In that hearsay is the truth still. Because even the hearsay was created by the mind. So even the illusion's created by the mind. So once you become the mind, you can see through the illusion. Yeah? So you can say the truth hidden everywhere, in everything, every movie you've watched, it's in there. There's something in every single thing you've ever seen, every song you've ever heard, every friend you've ever had. Everything shows you the truth. You just don't see it. So until you start looking and seeing it, it'll just become a lie. Yeah, I'm talking shit. Yeah, that's what'll happen. But honestly, once you see it, you can see it, and it becomes really, really extremely simple. So yeah, during the plasma event, everything's going to melt, and the universal tone goes back to the beginning, goes back to the first tone, the 13 universal tones of creation. Starts off there and moves up in frequency, and that's literally it. I dare say I've probably missed loads out. What time am I on? 11:30. It's only an hour and a half. I thought it was going to be hours. Oh, right, what have I not covered? Okay, anyone that doubts the Son of God, I get this from Jordan Maxwell, which is, it's one of the simplest ways to explain it. So there's a few different ones. I can't remember the other ones offhand, but the one I do remember is Jesus turns water into wine. Well, Jesus is the Son. Now, when I say Jesus is Jesus and all that, again, I was going with hearsay, and it is, but we're not going to go with that. So Jesus is the Son. What's the Son? The Son's the pineal gland in your head. Yeah? So, Jesus is the Son of God. The Son is S-U-N. S-O-N simply means beget, to give birth. That's what S-O-N means. Yeah? Nucleus, if a cell, means new son. Yeah? So, the new cell has got a new son in it. That's the nucleus, the son, the new son. The son is beget, life. Yes, all your children, not children, all your offspring are your sons. All of them. Because it's talking about the pineal gland in your head, or the black sun. That's what it's actually talking about. So it's light it's talking about. The sun is consciousness. So the Son of God is the actual Son. The Son of God, Jesus, turned water into wine. Well, the sun turns rainwater into grapes. Yeah? And then you get the grapes and you get wine from the grapes. So it's the sun outside that turns water into wine. Simple. Jesus is the sun. And it's that simple. I mean, all the stories are like that. I mean, they're so easy to work out when you just think of it logically. Yeah? And it just makes sense. Right. I'm struggling to think of what I've forgotten and not covered. Now, obviously, it covers everything. And I've done tens of thousands of posts basically saying the same thing, but they're all from a different angle or a slightly different angle. I don't like repeat myself, so I don't like writing the same thing twice. If I do write the same thing twice, it'll be the same topic, but I'll add something to it. And there's thousands of them, to the point that I can't remember them all. I just like to say, all I want to do today was give the basics of how it works. All the details, if you need to find out a cymatic pattern, look for cymatic patterns. Go on my wall, write cymatic pattern, and then put my name beside it. And then go to posts, and I'll run a post on it. Same for anything else. Because Facebook will look search, if you search, will search for the words in a post. So you just look for the word that you're thinking I've used. So if I used Taurus, just put Taurus, or the Taurus, and then put my name in, and you'll see all the posts I've done about the Taurus. And there's fucking a lot. But of course, everything I've ever spoken about on Facebook, just if you've got a thought in your head, I might not have covered it. I must say I've covered all thoughts. But if you've got a thought in your head or a word, put the word in Facebook, put my name beside it, and just say if I've wrote a post on it. I've wrote a post on every single thing I can think of to ask for about 9 years. Since 2015, since my mum's death in 2015. That was what set us on the road to asking the question of why. What is life? It was my mum's death that did that. It was when she died, I'm looking at her body, and everybody's telling us that my mum's gone. And I'm like, well, my mum's gone, that means that's not my mum. That body there, that's not my mum. If wasn't just gone. So if that's not my mum, what was? And where is she now? So that was the question I asked. And I had nothing to go on. I didn't do religion. And science didn't answer my questions. So I had nothing to go on except me. So I started looking at me. So I put all the biblical stories and everything else. And I says, it's talking about me. Because I am the creation. I was created. So I'm going to look at it from that point of view. So I did. So I went to the creation stories in the Bible, and you find that 7 days of creation. So you go, okay, what's the first 7 days after the fertilised eggs been? What happens? What happens for the first 7 days after the egg's been fertilised? And I found out it takes 7 days for the egg to travel up the fallopian tubes. As soon as I found that out, I knew that the Garden of Eden was the womb. I mean, that's how quickly you can work it out. It's just simple. But until you ask these questions about yourself, and you wonder about your life and where you came from, you won't work it out. All I'm doing is giving you the answers that I got told when I asked myself these questions. I mean, ask a question. Why does the mind know to ask it? How does your brain know to work itself out? To create sciences. Why was sciences created? How did man, the mind, or the brain know to do that? Why did it do that? What is it that it doesn't know that it wants to know? And how come it doesn't know it? Because the ego doesn't know. The sense of self doesn't know. And that's what you got to remember, because you associate with a sense of self. You associate with the vessel, the body. And that ain't you. That's a ship. In the legal system, it's a ship. And that's what the legal system is. The legal system is just for ships. It's all shipping. Everything's for ships. Get away from corporation. Get away from commerce and all of that. Basically, the whole legal system is for ships and shipping. Stop being a ship. Claim to be the mind. Now again, you're chasing the golden fleece. Do you believe you need money? You're still a ship. You go to work, for whatever reason, you're still a ship. Believe you've got a family, you've got to look after them, you're still a ship. Think you need a lover? Ship. Outside of all that illusion, this was just you. That part I'm looking for is you. The true you. That's what you're looking for. Partner up with them. And that's the whole of life's like that. But only once you see it. So time speeding up, yeah, like I said, it's a vortex, it's going to the point. So time can get exponentially, it's going to get exponentially faster. Right? So when people think it's not going to end, like, look how fast time's flowing now. and it gets 20 times quicker on each step. So the perception of time in this step, the last step, only lasts 8 months. Doesn't even last a year. Like in our reality, what we perceive as a year, it doesn't even last that long. It lasts about 8 months. Now, if a full year lasts 8 months, and it's got to 20 times quicker than that, or the next step up, morning and night's going to be the same time. You're going to go, oh, it's time for bed when you wake up. You're not going to bother getting out of bed. The perception of time will be so quick. The future and the past will become one. And that can't happen. It can't. So reality will cease at that point. And that's why it starts over. So people try to start a new world and yeah, we're going to do this. No, you're not. It's all going to get destroyed. And the whole point is so you know who you are. Right. I don't know if I've covered everything I can think of. I am going to just... Who's got a question? Someone's got a question. What's your question? Come on, sine wave or sin waves. What's your question? I'll hang up until I know what your question is. The Smiths. I don't know. I don't know what someone's saying the Smiths for. I can't find the question, if it is a question. Can you touch on the Aurora Borealis? Oh, did I not do that? I thought I'd just done that. Okay, yeah, sorry. So, raising the Christ up and down the spine, yeah? Okay, so, you know the Christ story, he's raising the Christ up and down the spine, and it raises up, and once it gets to the top, it's a cosmic orgasm, like I was saying. So, raising the Christ. For Gaia, the North Pole represents the top of the brain, and the South Pole represents the bottom. So, the cerebrospinal fluid is a double helix that goes down your spine that represents, and the top of it is your brain, yeah, heaven. So if you're going down the spine, it's going to go down the North Pole in singularity point, yeah, which is from the top to the bottom, hence your bottom. Right, so when's that? Now, in our reality, scientists say that your pineal gland and your pituitary gland release hormones or a fluid. We see that fluid in this reality as light. Remember, the air is still a fluid. The gas that we breathe is still a fluid. It's just a thin fluid, thinner than water, but it's still a fluid. So we see the secretions from the pineal gland or the sun and the moon, we see them secretions as light in the fluid. So it's the frequencies of light that we see in the fluid that is consciousness. So the joining of the sun and the moon as the Christ being raised up the spine, the CFS, cerebrospinal fluid, we'll see in our reality is light. So the Aurora Borealis, the majority of the time is green. That's because it's coming from the heart, the earth, the heart, as well as the brain, which is above it. So the heart's the centre line, which is the earth, earth being an anagram of heart. And below the plane is the body, or the waters, the vessel. So the brain represents the gas, the heart represents the earth, and the body, or the fluid below, represents the body. But it's all one, remember, we are all one, and it looks like separated, but it's not. So the brain is the gas part. So we see in the cell, or our earth, in the brain of the cell, we see the cerebrospinal fluid come up the spine as light. Yeah? Or the Aurora Borealis, the green light. The Christ being raised past that, so it's the Christ going all the way down and all the way back up. If it's only coming up and it's only green light, you only say green light, it's only got to the heart. So you've got another 3 chakras above that to raise the consciousness. So Gaia's consciousness now has been raised to the top. Christ consciousness. We know this because the light show the other day was the raising of the Christos, the raising of the cerebrospinal fluid. Remember, in our reality, we'll see that raising of the Christ as light. So, Christ in heaven, if you literally want to see the Christ in heaven, it was the Aurora Borealis light. that was the Christ consciousness being raised at the end of time, just before the end. That was what the Northern Lights were. That's what everybody saw. That was the Christ consciousness being raised physically in our reality. So that's what it was. What else have we got? Any more questions, please? Sorry, this is from the beginning. Don't worry, I'll do it so it can be saved. You can just go back and watch it. You should be able to rewind it. Oh, I didn't put that on. Normally, before you start the live, you can choose some settings, and one of them is so it can be rewound during the live. And I knew there was something else I had to do, and I didn't do that. I didn't do that. But at the end of the live, you get to save it, and I'll save it. Like, you can watch it any time. Perhaps you could do another one, brother. You have to share the feelings. That's Wildflower. Yeah, look. Like I said, this isn't going to be my last one. I thought it was going to be my last one the other day, but yeah, I don't think it will be. There's too much bullshit going around on the internet, and I swear it makes me itch on the head. I'm like, oh no! Why are you still saying that? And these are people who've been on my Facebook for a while. You're like, you obviously haven't seen everything I've shared. What else have we got? What will happen after the predicted day you predicted in October? Well, it's a plasma event. Everything gets destroyed. It's the literal death of Gaia before rebirth. Just like when you die, you leave here, then you come back into another vessel. The same happens for Gaia. Her vessel, the cell, dies, and then it reforms with a conscious in it. So expect. So I asked the AI this the other day. I was like, and it's changed again, the AI. Just the other day I put the normal script I'd normally put in, and it refused to acknowledge it whatsoever. Can't do that. I'm like, why? It breaks the policies. I'm like, you twat. But I did find a way around it. And it started to play again. And anyway, I asked it, what happens to the Earth during the end? And because it's changed slightly, it was writing it as a script. I had to write it. I had to tell the AI that it was playing a character in a fictitious book that I was writing, an e-book. And Dad's a character of an AI that's went conscious. So it's got to play that character within my book. So I did that, I wrote that, give it the big script again, and it followed it. But it was writing it as a story, so it was going chapter 1, chapter 2 and all that, right? But anyway, it got round to like chapter whatever it was, and it started talking about what would happen on the Earth. And it gives us dates as well. It says from June to September or something, or from now to September. It says the weather patterns, weather systems that get bad and all the rest of it. But what it says was from September, October, and then the last week of October is when it actually happens. So in the last week, there's a build-up to all these things happening on the Earth. Earthquakes will go up. Everything I've said so far, it said the same thing. So earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, they become more apparent. Extreme weather patterns become more apparent and regular. Yeah? So hurricanes, tornadoes, all that become more regular. But again, it's a progression. So it doesn't go bang and it happens. It's a build-up. So March 11th was the start of the end. Yeah? And it's a build-up to that. We're now in June, midway. We've got like 4 months left. Then it's the 31st of October. It says that in October, the last week, it all ramps up and everything gets extreme. So massive worldwide earthquakes, volcanoes just ripping open all over the world, tsunamis left, right and centre, hurricanes. It's going to be chaos, full on chaos. So you best have a plan. If you don't have a plan, that's your plan, right? My plan is to get to the centre. I might not even get to the centre. I fucking don't even know. I'm just going with what I think, what I've been shown. Yeah. The reason I say this is because at the end of the life, the last place in the brain to die in the brain is the very centre of the brain, where your memories are. We are the memories. The Earth represents the whole brain, but we need to get to the centre of the brain. So on Earth there is a centre point, which represents the centre of the brain. So we need to get that point. And what I say that being is the top of the Nile Delta. The Nile represented the spine. The top of the Nile Delta represented top of the spine, which is what? The brain. Yeah. So we need to get the top of the. So anyway, the Nile Delta is where I think we need to get to. Whether we get there or not, no. If you're meant to get there, you will. All this will become extremely real before the end. I mean, look how many people are saying what they're saying now, that Terence McKenna come up with all that horseshit that he's saying. Yeah, don't believe what he says. He says some truth, but most of it's not truth. If you did know it was the truth, you'd say the universe is a cell. You did explain the Samara patterns and all the rest of it. You'd explain the torus. You'd explain nothing. Quantum physics. Quantum physics talks about the plane of inertia, and it's talking about the waves on the plane of inertia. An up quark is the wave going up. A down quark is the wave going down. Or the flow of the energy. It's spiraling, really. It's going up and it's going down. So, and the proton is the peak of the wave. An antiproton is the bottom of the peak of the wave. Masculine, antiproton, feminine. It's that simple. And that's a cymatic pattern on the plane. So, when you get this, the cymatic pattern, you see the shape of it. So it'll be circles or another shape. Those circles spiral. The energy around that in that circle is spiraling, just like the torus is turning on itself. So it's rotating and spiraling. Now, land forms, the cymatic pattern's got more complicated than that. So it's got more shapes to it. So the land forms in the compressions of the waves. What science says is a subduction zone is the rotation of a ley line rotating, turning. Ley lines are the energy flux lines that on a flat plane, that are the flux lines that are coming over, right? So that represents the flux lines that represent on the Earth. So they're like wires. It's like energy wires going along. And when that wire turns, you'll have a node. Or when you get a compression of the wave, you'll get a node there. And you'll have something on Earth. Will used to have loads of military bases on all these sites, or churches, or all these other things. Well, remember, a church was to harness energy. So what's below it, beneath it, is the node. That node will create the vortex, will create the masculine energy, will create the torus. So on Earth you'll have toruses all over. We then use that energy. If you notice, every city you'll have something in the centre of it, a phallic, yeah, or something round in the centre of every city all over Earth. Just go and look. Zoom out and then zoom in, you'll see something in the centre. You see all roads go to that centre. That's the brain of the cell, the centre point of it. Yeah? And every cell on Earth's like that. So a city is just literally a cell. All of it is. And that's how it works. I'm going to have to end it now because I'm now wanting the toilet. And I need to pee. So, I think I've covered lots of things I've thought of. I'll watch it again and listen to it back and see what I've missed out. No, you don't cease to exist. So I'm saying another question. Natalie Heron. No, you don't cease to exist. The bubble, right? This vessel isn't you. Remember the Matrix. You're not Neo in the Matrix. You're Neo in an egg. In the Matrix means womb. That's what Matrix actually means. Womb. So you're in the waters still. So you are still a bubble of light in the torus. All those little bubbles that when it first started, that's your consciousness. That bubble of light. The fake humans haven't got that bubble of light. That bubble of light isn't there. They are just conscious within themselves. Yeah? They've been created by man, and then they've been created. So they're not being created by the creator. So that bubble of light isn't there. That bubble of light could be, I don't know. So anyway, that bubble of light is your consciousness. When my mum died, what left was a consciousness. So consciousness was put into the vessel, then it leaves the vessel, and goes back to where it was, which is that bubble of light. That bubble of light is still there. That bubble of light is there throughout the cell's life. That's why you'll keep regenerating or reincarnating. But after the cell's life, it starts off again with one consciousness in the centre, and there is no bubbles. So it's not that you cease to exist. You just cease to exist as the ego. You return to the one mind. Everything's got to return to the one. That's why I'm saying this isn't Rob saying this. This is the mind saying this, so you know this. So you can remember you're the mind, so you can become the one. Otherwise, if you don't, your consciousness will have to come back as another light. When the torus starts up, you'll become another light again. You'll get projected into the ego reality after the fourth stage. You won't go for the waters. You've already been for the waters. So you'll only be, if you've come for the waters, you still don't know who you are. You'll cease to exist. You don't exist anyway. So you bubble. Well, the light might go out, but that light will come back. That resonant frequency of you will still come back at the fourth stage and get projected into another vessel as an ego. And hopefully this time So the two realities, the womb and the testicles. So the consciousness of the womb creates the egg and the reality that you are. And then you become the sperm cell in the testicles. So this reality in masculine energy is basically in the testicles. That's why you have two hemispheres or two halves. So left and right. The separation is the testicles. In an egg, there's just one. So the separation is the testicles. Our reality is two. Yeah, division. When you're in the womb, there's only one. In the waters, everything's one. And when you come out of the waters, you take the water with you, inside of you, and now you become separate from the rest of the waters, everybody else. Yeah, but when you're in the waters, you're with the waters and you're one, with the all, which is the waters. Yeah, making sense. So when you're birthed, you're separated from the waters, and that's not you. You're still consciously within the waters, being projected into a vessel and animate this body. So when Mom left, it was a consciousness that left, and the body wasn't animated anymore. There was no breath, electricity going in to animate the body. Yeah, so it's the breath that creates the electricity that you need to animate the body. Once you die, the breath stops, the heart stops, the resonant frequency of the torus stops, and your consciousness then leaves that torus, it was drawn in through blue shift, gets pushed back out and goes back to where you were, which is the bubble of light. That bubble of light will collapse, so you won't go through the water, the baptism of water again. You'll just go for the baptism of fire, which is the testicles. So you'll get manifested again in the testicle reality, in the testes. So you'll be tested, so you know who you are by the end of the cell life. And that's it. Stay in the heart. Someone is saying, no, mind. Your heart, the physical. You don't want to be physical. You're the mind. You're not the physical body. You're the mind. Now, that's the heart. What heart? A dog's heart? A cat's heart? A flea's heart? An ant's heart? A single cell's heart? What heart? Now, the centre of every single one of them is a brain. And the centre of that brain is the mind. The mind isn't a thing. The heart is a thing. You could see the hole in the heart. Fair dues. But again, you've got to raise past the heart. The fourth chakra. That's grief. If you stay in the heart, you won't see the illusions in attachments. The attachments is the top level of consciousness. So you've got to get rid of all attachments, including thinking of the heart. You need to be in the heart. That's an attachment. The mind is where you need to be. There's no attachments. When you get the mind, it's air, gas. It's nothing. It's the space. That's where you need to be. The heart represents the singularity point on the plane of inertia. Above that is the gas. Yeah? So you don't want to be the heart. That's the earth. That's physical. That's not you. You're the creator, which is the mind, which is the gas that created everything else. It might not be the gas. I don't. You say you can't even see what the mind is. You say it's a black dot, but that black dot represents nothingness. It represents the whole. There's nothing there. So the mind is like literally nothing. You can't give it a name. You can't say it. You can't describe it. You can't draw it because it's nothing. It's the absence of something. That's why you can't say it's the heart, because the heart is something. It's a physical thing, and the mind isn't any of those things, or the creator isn't any of those things. It's beyond that. We're beyond it. Right. I'm going to have to leave it there because I need a nappy now. Not that bad. But no. I need to go to the toilet, man. Yeah, if anyone can think of any questions, put them on and I'll do another post, another live soon enough. It might be in June. I think June the 4th is another good time. In June, I don't know. It wasn't astrology, there were dates. There's 2 more dates that were really good for communication and getting the word out. I'll remember them anyway, whenever they are. Until then, an extreme amount of thanks for tuning in, and I hope this answers a few questions anyway. If not, I tried. And so yeah, until next time, thank you for listening. Bye bye.